welcome to the 295th edition of the Illegal Motion College Football Podcast. In Nashville, Tennessee, I'm Matt Perkins. Joining me, a corner post across the Harpeth River from me here in the Music City. Yes, that's correct. We're now putting triple moves into our route tree. It's our own offensive coordinator, the coach, Corey Burton.
What's up, Matt? Yes, we can start putting triple moves in when we're 295 episodes deep. For you SI people, you've had to wait 295 episodes, but this is the best version of the Illegal Motion podcast. So here you go.
Yeah,
What's up, man?
Well, we can't get it started without the third amigo in the second city. A man who has been spending a conspicuous amount of money on Cameo recently, especially requesting videos from certain former head coaches. It's our intrepid blogger from Big Ten and Counting, Josh Cook.
As you could tell, I am in my morning black.
Yes.
The streak is over. The Cyhawk is done. And Iowa's not good.
Funny you should say that. Neither is Wisconsin. So we will get into that misery here in just a moment. But before we do, we want to remind you guys that we are presented by not only Believe and MikeFarrellSports.com, but our presenting sponsor, Bet Online. They are the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports, contests, and events with first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews and news for every league: Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, golf, and most importantly, obviously, college football. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports information, from live in-game betting to props, futures, and more. So head on over to BetOnline or use your mobile device to join today and make your first sports bet. And use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BLEAV50, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, gents. Week 2 was absolutely wild. There are a lot of places that we could start, but where I'm going to start is the fallout from Nebraska losing, well, let's face it, for the umpteen millionth time, this time to Georgia Southern at home and the Fighting Clay Heltons. Coach, I'm going to start with you here. I'm going to start with the game itself, I should say. How does Nebraska let a team who just started using the forward pass this spring throw for over 400 yards?
I'm still trying to figure that one out, to be honest with you. It's baffling, and we talked about this. Arizona, I talked about this a little bit with Scott Frost and just kind of how disorganized and just disheveled this program has become under Scott Frost, and it just lack of preparation, lack of respect for your opponent, and just I don't know what they were doing. I don't know what they've been practicing. It just seemed like the team just quit. Really, I don't know.
Josh,
I can't explain it.
Let's keep it within this game. I mean, first, before we get to the Scott Frost and the bigger discussion there, I mean, Georgia Southern was the better team from start to finish, too. I think that 45-42 score is actually a little bit misleading.
Yeah, so, when I previewed the team for the blog, the big thing for me was a lot of new faces on that defense, especially the defensive front was not particularly a strong point heading into the season, and they've just gotten progressively worse. They're not getting much in the way of push to slow down running attacks. We saw that against Northwestern. We saw them struggle to get any sort of pass rush going. Georgia Southern took advantage of that. And then the big red flag, the North Dakota game. I mean, that was a ball game going into the fourth quarter. And yeah, Nebraska put some scores on late to kind of pull away and make it look a tad better. But I mean, these are dismal performances from a coach that needed to be 3-0 essentially at this point to have really any chance to save his job. And, I also have said many, many times the last act of a desperate coach is when you fire your entire staff and restart. And that's basically what Nebraska was doing with a whole lot of new faces on the coaching staff. So not too surprised
on top of
about
that. poetic justice that the final nail in the coffin was Clay Helton beating him last year's first coach fired. And we all said at the time that was a great move by Georgia Southern to snap him up.
Yeah, I mean he's a good coach. Just he
wasn't
the
the
USC
right
job
fit.
just was not a good fit.
He's originally from Gainesville, Florida. USC was never going to be a fit for that. I'm going to unabashedly steal a line from one of my favorite other college football podcasts, Shutdown Fullcast. He's the guy who says program and not program, and that's all you need to know about Clay Helton and where he is from. Let's look big picture here at Nebraska. We've seen everyone under the sun bandied about to be the next Nebraska coach. Josh, who is an actual legitimate person who would be offered and would take this job? Because when I see something like Matt Campbell ain't leaving Iowa State.
He turned down the Detroit Lions in the NFL for $65 million.
Jim Leonard turned down the Packers defensive coordinator job to stay at Wisconsin. What Chris Klieman has built something at Kansas State better than leaps and bounds better than what Nebraska is, or frankly, in my opinion, even bigger picture, what Nebraska could ever get back to. But I'll let you take it from there, Josh.
I think the X factor is Nebraska took a lot of hits with the timing of firing Scott Frost. There was all this stuff about, well, if they wait till October 1st, it drops down to $7.5 million. Why'd they do it now, 3 games in? Why didn't they fire him at the beginning of the year? Whole lot of different factors. Basically, the timeline of when the athletic director came in made it kind of hard to fire him in the offseason, restructured his contract. Scott Frost, still beloved quarterback, and the AD is a former teammate of his. So there was kind of some hope there, some goodwill there. The reason why they fired him now is I think a lot of people in Nebraska think interim coach Mickey Joseph can be the guy. And so what they're trying to do is recreate what Washington State experienced last year with Coach Deckert, which is, hey, you get an interim in there, he blows the audition out of the water, our coaching search is done.
I think that's what with the move that's happened, I think they're hoping that's what happens. They're hoping Mickey Joseph takes this and runs with it. The team is competitive. If they make a bowl, he's got the job in the bag. But going back on the comment about all the names that were being bandied, you think Deion Sanders, you think Coach Prime is leaving Jackson State to go to Nebraska? Nah. No. Matt Campbell, that one was laughable.
Of all the lists, of all the names on the various lists that are floating around, CBS has their list, Yahoo has their list, ESPN has their list. The one name that really caught my eye was Bill O'Brien, which people are kind of laughing about, especially in the wake of Alabama's performance against Texas. But this guy won a lot of games with the Texans, not exactly the biggest team in the NFL.
And before he resurrected Penn State.
That's where I was going next. He did a lot of good work at Penn State of turning that around. He was hired right after the Joe Paterno, Jerry Sandusky fallout, for people that don't remember that. So the Bill O'Brien name is, I think, a serious one that's intriguing. I don't know if that's a sexy enough hire, though, for Nebraska fans that are still kind of living in the, hey, we're Nebraska, we should be winning the Big Ten West every year. This is still the 1990s. I think that there's still a lot of fans in that fan base that haven't fully accepted the fact that it is not 1990 anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bill O'Brien's proven a good bit, and that is an interesting name. Ultimately, I don't think he's going to get that job because they'll want somebody that's more. They're going to try for somebody that's more of a name, and I don't know where they look, but Mickey Joseph.
I'll tell you where I'll tell you one place that I think they should look. There's this up and coming offensive coordinator who just he needs to get out of the shadow of his dad. It's got to be Brian Ferentz. That should be number 1, A, B, and C on their list.
Josh, how can we make that happen?
Josh, how many Twitter accounts do you have?
How do we make it happen? We roll Brian Ferentz up into a carpet and drop it off on Nebraska's front door and tell them it's a baby Urban Meyer.
No, what you need to do is you need to send the film of that 2-hour coaching clinic that he did on Outside Zone. Send that to Nebraska. They'll hire him. They'll snatch him right up.
That's really going to bowl over the AD, I'm sure. Okay, let's move on to some other games. And speaking of being bowled over, as my printer goes off behind me, Appalachian State's offense, and specifically their rushing offense, absolutely bowled over Texas A&M's defensive line full of former 5-star prospects. Josh, was this actually more embarrassing than Nebraska losing to Georgia Southern?
Ooh, so first of all,
my answer is yes. They got
shout
out.
Texas A&M is the number 6 team in the country, with giant scare quotes.
Yes,
too, and
Well, okay, so here's the thing, though. If you say Texas A&M is overrated and it's totally, completely embarrassing, in a way you're taking away from App State's incredible win. They game planned excellently. They held the ball for 41 minutes and 29 seconds. I know Texas A&M's offensive struggles played a big part of that, but App State is just a machine of a program. They've been good for so long that I think it's, hats off to App State, and then follow it up. Secondary storyline is what's wrong with Texas A&M. The question you posed, is this the most embarrassing loss of the weekend? Well, the contenders are that. Then you got Marshall, Notre Dame. Notre Dame was struggling on offense and then had their quarterback get hurt. Notre Dame's kind of a mess right now. Marshall, same thing. Pedigree, mid-major program. They've been good for a while now. Where I'm looking at some of the real dogs of a performance that are embarrassing, these might not have even been on your radar, Matt. We got Utah State getting waxed at home 35-7 to Weber State. Weber from the state of Utah, so obviously the game meant more to them. I'm looking through the stats and I can't identify a single thing that Utah State did right in this game. Coach, you like fundamentals. How about these for some fundamentals? 11 penalties for 101 yards. Ooh. Is that good? Because Utah State did that. They had 4 turnovers, 2 of 15 on third down. I mean, Utah State was a complete joke. And then getting to some more embarrassment. Iowa's next opponent is Nevada. We got a nice little cakewalk here against Incarnate Word to get to 3-0 on the season. They lost 55-41, and the Incarnate Word quarterback Lindsey Scott, 18-25, 406, and 4 touchdowns. What in the world was Nevada's defense doing? There's a chance Iowa scores about 10 points in their next game.
Oh, there you go. Hey,
you're 616 yards of offense.
All right, Coach.
616 yards of offense for the Cardinals. So, which of those 4 are the most embarrassing? App, Marshall, Weber, or Incarnate Word? All 4 awesome wins.
Depends on what your metrics are.
I'm going to go Weber. I'm going to go Weber, because of margin of victory and the fact that Utah State is supposed to be a top-level Mountain West team this year.
I'm going with Texas A&M because a lot of people had them in the playoff.
Yeah, well,
everyone was like, "Oh, A&M's going to win the conference," and
Desmond Howard had them as his national champion.
Outside of Fresno, the Mountain West and Air Force, excuse me, the two of them, Fresno and Air Force. Outside of them, Mountain West is struggling.
Oh, speaking of FCS teams, by the way, winning, did you guys see the 7 overtime game between Eastern Kentucky and Bowling Green?
That one missed. I normally don't miss a Colonel's game, but that one I did.
7 overtimes they tried. Eastern Kentucky won, I believe, 59-57 when Bowling Green tried for the 2-point play to run a hook and lateral with an offensive lineman.
The old hook and cook. The old fat boy hook and cook.
Careful. You mentioned that play too much. You'll give Brian ideas.
Would it be any worse? I mean, I think they gained like 1.8 yards, which is more than the Iowa's offense averages per play. Speaking of struggling offenses, Coach, Notre Dame, Josh mentioned Marshall beating Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Marcus Freeman is now 0-3. Are we sure he's the guy? Or is this still too early? Is this too much?
I think it's still too early. The first game, okay. This game is of course very embarrassing, but I think you got to give him a full chance to get a full on cycle of recruiting from start to finish. I think he's eventually gonna be really good. We're gonna look back on this and go, remember when Marcus Freeman was 0-3? But these head coaching reps aren't easy to come by, and situations hit you in the face like what Marshall did. Yeah, he was shell shocked. You could tell he was on the sideline. He didn't know what to do. He was shell shocked. But I think eventually he'll figure it out and he'll be just fine. He's got charisma. He's got the defense. That's he knows how to coach the defense. He knows how to recruit on the defensive side of the ball. It's just about it's just about getting those guys playing at a high level. The offense really screwed him over and putting their defense in bad spots. So you just got to see how he responds and go from there. But it's not a good thing. There is some concern, but I think ultimately he'll be fine. I'm not pushing the panic button yet.
I'm not concerned long term, especially because we're 3 months away from signing day, and I think they've still got a top 3 class.
Yeah, they'll be fine.
I don't think long term this is anything to worry about. I mean, think about all of the games that Brian Kelly lost early on in his. I mean, he was losing to Service Academy. He lost to Tulsa, and they ended up making the playoff. Twice under him. I think he's going to be just fine. This is going to end up
being the BCS also. That's that year.
Exactly. So, let's move on to what was billed at least as the biggest game of the weekend. That was Alabama and Texas. And I'm going to throw this out to the group. Am I the only person who felt like the Tide were lucky to come out of Austin with a victory? Like,
you're not alone, Matt. You're not alone. I watched this game from start to finish. The Tide, their offense looked completely confused. Their O-line looked completely overmatched. Gary Patterson and whoever their defense coordinator actually is, he's just a senior consultant. They had Bill O'Brien on his heels. They were hitting Bryce, sacking Bryce, forcing a ton of penalties. I think this was the most penalties a Nick Saban team has ever had. They just
15 of them. They could have had about 25.
Yeah, they look completely discombobulated, and they couldn't get anything going. The receivers were god-awful, dreadful.
On the Bryce Young scramble for like 30 yards to get that first down, there was a gigantic blatant holding by the right tackle that was completely missed. That would have negated that play, and Texas probably wins the game if that's called.
It was probably one of Alabama's worst games.
It was just.
What did you guys think of the safety no call?
It was a poorly officiated and frankly a relatively poorly played game on both. Both teams were sloppy. Honestly, I wish Quinn Ewers had not been hurt. I mean, he got annihilated by Dallas Turner, but I wish he not been hurt because he, up until that point, was probably the best player in the game.
Yeah, and Sark had a brilliant game plan. I thought the way they attacked Bama was awesome offensively for Texas. They just don't have the bullets in the gun to execute all of that stuff. But I think you saw the imagination. You saw how creative it was. You saw he was putting guys in spots, and a lot of this was based on his expertise of the team being that he coached there two seasons ago. So, it was a brilliant game plan. They executed it really well. They just didn't finish. They could not finish. They could not put the finishing touches on that.
Yeah, I think an interesting thing for Alabama going forward. You mentioned the offensive line struggles, and I think this plays into these struggles. But Bryce Young could not complete a pass more than 15 yards downfield in that game, and I mean, the name of the game nowadays, the last few years, it has been chunk plays. We kind of joked about it as a hashtag, but in reality, I mean, you gotta stretch the defense. Because if you have no downfield threat, teams are just going to keep loading the box. And then what's Alabama going to do with this struggling offensive line?
Deep threat? Yeah. Jermaine Burton, who is your most bandied, ballyhooed, whatever adjective you want to use, or adverb, or I don't know my grammar, but the most talked about recruit from the transfer portal. He has 2 catches for 10 yards. That's concerning.
Yeah, a little bit, especially with Tyler Harrell now out with injury. So if Alabama is struggling in the SEC West and Texas A&M is losing, the second best team in the SEC West, I think at this point has to be Arkansas, who also beat up on South Carolina. Coach, fill in the blank for me. The Hogs are the blank best team in the entire conference.
Third. Yeah, I mean, you have to think Bama's going to come out of this funk
behind Georgia and the SEC East leading Kentucky Wildcats.
Behind Vanderbilt too.
Paul. First time, long time, Paul.
First time, long time, Paul. Arkansas will win the SEC. Okay, I'll hang up and listen. Yeah, no.
May I make a teeny tiny confession?
What's your confession? Are you jealous of?
No. This might be bad fandomness or bad podcast host duties, but I don't care about Texas and Alabama. I don't care about those 2 teams. I care about the rising power of Arkansas and watching one of my best friends' team out there. I watched the entire Arkansas game. I really did not watch much of that Texas game. So.
Well, good for you, Josh.
Hey,
so then tell us how good are they?
Giving us something to watch.
Give us something, Josh. Give us something. How good is Arkansas?
Arkansas is really good.
Like really,
trying to think
like top 10, top 5. Like how good?
Now you're putting me on the spot. Okay, I'm going to say that if their defense gets a little bit better, they're for sure a top 10 team. Even without their defense not being quite up to snuff what you want for going up against a Georgia or an Alabama or, even Kentucky. Hey, man, Kentucky looked awesome against Florida. Even though they were so sloppy, they still found a way to win. Even if the defense isn't quite there yet, the things they do offensively, their offensive line is just obliterating the opponent. Raheem Sanders, it felt like he ran 8 yards before he ever got touched. KJ Jefferson, he's such a big body, big frame. He lowers his head and feels like he can get 5 yards anytime he wants to on a designed run. He was 18 of 21 passing. They looked really good. I do want to give a little. Yeah. I do want to give a little bit of love in this game. I know he's got his detractors, but Spencer Rattler, basically nothing was happening around him. The offensive game plan for South Carolina was idiotic. They abandoned the run after 1 series and basically passed about 100 times the rest of the game.
Which is great when you have a terrible offensive line that can't pass protect and save their lives.
Yeah, he looks pretty good. He had some really nice, hookups with Antoine Wells Jr. I think this, I was a little bit higher in our previews on South Carolina than you guys. The Gamecocks did some things that I kind of like. I think I have a little bit more confidence in them being a bowl team, even though they lost by 2 touchdowns. They should beat Charlotte. Well, they will beat Charlotte. They will beat South Carolina State. That gets them to 3 wins. You're telling me they can't beat Missouri? Telling me they can't beat Vanderbilt? Telling me they can't beat one of the rest of their teams? Clemson got outgained by Furman. Clemson has their own issues. Like South Carolina,
big time.
Yeah, South Carolina's sniffing around for being a back-to-back bowl team.
I guess that doesn't surprise me. I guess that South Carolina's going to be sniffing around a bowl. I thought that's where they'd be 500-ish. I just didn't think I guess there were people that I were hearing from talking to saying, "Oh, South Carolina is going to be second in the East." I was like, I don't see that at all.
No.
I think it's pretty clear though at this point who the second best team in the East is, and that is yet again. It's crazy that we're saying this. It's yet again. It's Kentucky, coach. It's Kentucky.
Yeah, it is. They're really good. And I'll get my South Carolina take here in a little bit, but Kentucky, man. Who would have thought that Will Levis in that offense, the way they started the season off, would have been so potent that it spooked Billy Napier into a really bad fourth down, go for it on fourth down attempt to lead to a game icing field goal. They rattled Billy Napier. They rattled Anthony Richardson. And this team, they're getting Chris Rodriguez back too, which is scary. Yeah. This team is starting to come together offensively. They're starting to figure some things out. Defensively, they've been strong all season long. Their defensive line is nasty.
Absolutely.
Nasty. They're linebackers that continue to recruit well at the linebacker level, and they can play with average dudes in the defensive backfield because they're getting after the passer.
And they lost two or three outstanding linemen from last season, Darren Kennard, Dari Rosenthal. Their offensive line is just rolling again.
Plug and play, man. It's
Kentucky and Arkansas now are 2 programs that you can rely on year in and year out to have.
Did you just hit us with a program?
Those 2 programs are absolutely 2 that I can rely on to have a top 10 offensive line year in and year out. We are pretty much out of time here in our week 2 recap. Just quickly note, I was disgusted by Pitt's play calling. Conservative Pat Narduzzi playing for the tie instead of playing for the win at the end. I did not understand that one at all. Josh, it's your turn to gloat on me to remind me why I should never bet on Dana Holgorsen when Texas Tech beats Houston. I will cede the floor to you guys for any last thoughts.
Yeah, Pat Narduzzi, you got to go for the win, dude. You got to go for the win. That's all I'll say.
Josh.
Yeah, Donovan Smith, awesome day for Texas Tech. Yet another quarterback that picks apart a Dana Holgorsen non-appearance defense. You take out last year, and so Houston last year went 12-2. Not exactly a murderer's row of a schedule, right? Their wins were Rice, Grambling, Navy, Tulsa, Tulane, East Carolina in overtime, SMU, who was ranked, South Florida, Temple, Memphis, UConn, and then the joke of Brian Harrison's Auburn team in the bowl game. You take out this 12-2 season that was a pretty manageable schedule, and he is 69-55 as a coach, which is a 55 win percentage, which is not that hard to do when you're a Power 5 team like West Virginia who scheduled cupcakes in your non-conference. His best season as a coach was his first year at West Virginia when they were in the god-awful Big East. He never won diddly squat in the Big 12. He's second bananas to Cincinnati. He's not going to win diddly squat when Houston makes the leap to the Big 12. He's kind of like Tim Brewster at Minnesota. He gets you to bowl games. He's good enough to get you to bowl games, but he's not a championship coach. He never has been. And then the other game you wanted me to talk about, Matt, BYU, Baylor, just real quick on this game. Both teams are really good, but Baylor is a passing attack away from being a serious threat, I think, to repeat in the Big 12. Blake Sheppin just could not, get a a very efficient passing day going. He missed some guys, some receivers dropped balls. They had a hard time getting open, but BYU looks scary good.
And it was loud in Provo. My goodness,
And,
It always
it was
is.
loud.
Yeah, it was.
I was impressed with
And-
how diverse the student section was, though.
Yeah. And Josh, I thought you were going to hit us with a Jim Morris Sr. We didn't do diddly poo on offense. We couldn't block. We couldn't do diddly poo. Playoffs?
Speaking of doing diddly poo on offense, Coach, that is the perfect segue. It's time, gentlemen, for some quick slants. And Josh, it's your turn to talk about El Asico.
Yeah. Well, hats off to Iowa State. They played about as awful as you could conceivably play. 2 blocked punts. They had more penalties, more penalty yards. They had 3 turnovers. They didn't move the ball very effectively outside of one 99-yard drive. But the reality is, with Iowa's awful offense, Iowa State took better advantage of the opportunities given them. So Iowa fans, I've been seeing some say the refs were terrible, that they missed a fumble call, that the Iowa fullback scored. Maybe that's the truth. Maybe the refs did mess it up. But you know what? Iowa's only scoring drive was a 16-yard drive. They had golden opportunities given to them throughout the game. They didn't take advantage of them. I heard some people say, well, the defense gave up that 99-yard drive. You know what? When your offense is putting up the poo-poo platter that they were all day, you're going to get a little bit tired out. So just the excuses some of these Ferentz fanatics do for the Hawkeyes is just insane. The truth is, it's a systemic rot. Kirk wants to run a conservative offense. He's too stubborn to wake up that it's 2022 and you need to have a modern offense. So he is telling his son to run this stupid offense that doesn't attack anywhere downfield. They keep throwing out to the boundary. They have a quarterback who's not accurate enough to make those throws. One of the Iowa beat reporters found that 33% of Petrus's throws were off target on Saturday. That's insane. He's like 25 of 51 for the season. He's not a Division I quarterback, and they keep trotting him out there. And as they said a few hours ago, Petrus is the starter for Nevada, and as Petrus said, quote, "It was business as usual at practice." You guys are terrible. Why is it business as usual at practice?
They are the Ferentzes are saying, "Come on, fire me. I bet you won't do it." They're playing a big game of chicken.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is that Gary Barta
is
is buddy with Ferentz anyway, so it's not like it's going to make any changes.
Gary Barta might be the worst athletic director in the country. I mean, some of the scandals he's been a part of, he's been sued a couple of times. He's fired female coaches for just absurd reasons. So he's faced, lawsuits based on that. He's an idiot.
Well, Josh, I can empathize with you because I know a thing or two about stubborn coaches as a fan of the University of Wisconsin-Madison, despite my UCLA gear tonight, because that's the only school that gave me a diploma that did not lose this weekend. Wisconsin managed to completely out-Wisconsin themselves, despite Washington State having 8 men in the box for a good 70% of Wisconsin's snaps. They still attempted 44 rushing attempts for a grand total of 4 yards per carry. They outgained Washington State by over 150 yards, and yet still they had 22 first downs to 10. They held the ball for 38 minutes, and Graham Mertz looked probably his best and most complete game he's had since his debut, or maybe his second game against Michigan, when we still thought that he was the truth and the answer and the reason that Wisconsin would win the college football national championship. So what happens? Paul Chryst just decides to keep running into an 8-man box, and I think Dan Henley just made another tackle as we speak here. There's clearly no offensive ingenuity anywhere in the Big Ten West, and yet somehow, Josh, one of these two teams will still manage to represent the Big Ten West because Minnesota will inevitably choke.
I mean, my Minnesota pick is looking a little bit better.
I guess so. They are the only undefeated team in the Big Ten West at this point.
Is that bittersweet, Josh?
No,
hey,
I mean,
right, but it's Minnesota.
I appreciate competent football. I appreciate good football, and Minnesota's playing good, competent football. Like, they're fun to watch.
That is true. You know who else is fun to watch at the NFL level? It was the New York Giants this week, and Matt, congratulations to former Bills offensive coordinator Brian Daboll and his head coaching debut, getting his first victory and showing the entire country what it looks like to have guts, to go for the win and not play for overtime. And it paid off big time. So he earned his players' respect. They loved that he went for it and not just kick the field goal, go into overtime, because the Titans would have beat him. So that should be a message, man. Just go for it, man. Like, you know, he wasn't afraid to take a loss. No. And this is the NFL where they fire you 2 games in if you don't get wins. But he wasn't afraid of that. He just went for it.
My brain can't compute NFL talk.
Okay, well, that's plenty fine, because quick slants are over unless coach has the quickest up slants about the Dogs.
I mean, it wasn't much of a game. It was just, you know, get the guy some reps. It was a pretty sloppy game, and it was a pretty sloppy week of practice. If you want to know more about the Sanford game, tune in to Believe in Georgia Dogs for Israel and I. We discussed it. So there you go.
All right, well, let's move right into our week 3 previews. Guys, the slate this weekend, not going to lie, not great. I mean, it's kind of slim pickings. There are a couple of interesting games. Coach, I don't want to completely spoil South Carolina week on Believe in Dogs, but just quickly, do your Georgia Dogs have anything to worry about in Columbia this weekend?
No, I mean, it's usually a noon kick in September in Columbia is usually like hell's waiting room, but the temperature is actually going to be fairly mild. So, I think South Carolina has 2 defensive starters out. And this Georgia's offense should have their way with South Carolina. And of course, Spencer Rattler, this will be easily the best defense he's faced all year. And then he'll face Kentucky. So he'll face 2 of the best defenses in the conference. It's not going to, I don't think it's going to be very pretty for South Carolina. I think Rattler is going to struggle mightily. So to answer your question, no, not really. And if you want a full preview, at Believe in Georgia Dogs for that as well. So.
Matt, I'm a little disappointed. You said there's not much on the slate. You're missing that big game down in Houston. The undefeated and nation's leading scoring offense, Kansas Jayhawks.
Rock Chalk.
Take on Dana Holgerson's reeling Houston squad.
Okay, so tell us why that's the game of the weekend.
I just did. Kansas.
I mean, is that the
Kansas is surprisingly frisky, and they really haven't played anybody, but their offense is.
I mean, they beat
up points and yards. They
beat West Virginia in West Virginia.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that in 13-point overtime victory, which is always kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, a little bit of a surprise 2-0 start. I think most people had them losing to West Virginia. If they somehow beat Houston 3-0, and then you really at that point have to be like, okay, do they have 3 more victories on their bowl game or on their schedule to get to a bowl? Duke's improved, but it's still a home game. Iowa State kind of up and down here in the early going. We don't quite know what that Cyclone team's going to be. We don't know what TCU is going to be. I mean, there's a chance. Yeah, I mean, I was saying a little
Sonny
bit
Dykes late in the season. I think TCU will be a dub for.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a good call, Josh.
It is exciting. It is exciting for Kansas.
Is this the second time Josh is going to successfully call a shot on the Jayhawks?
No. I only do that against Texas.
Okay.
And I,
Coach, speaking of calling your shot, Josh also called Scott Frost failing at Nebraska. I meant to queue up that audio before we recorded.
I
but didn't
mean,
have
we
time
all
to.
did. I don't know that we all, I don't know.
yeah, but I ran through George O'Leary's entire career, including his fake resume, as to why he was a good coach and program builder, and that.
Well, just pulling together Kansas and something we talked about earlier. Lance Leopold has been rumored. He's been one of the many names thrown out there. Coach, I can't believe I'm asking this question. Should Lance Leopold leave Kansas for Nebraska or stay at Kansas?
I don't know. They're making some improvements with their facilities. He might just be crazy enough to stay at Kansas and try to build at Kansas. I don't know. I mean, that would be interesting.
I think he should be. I think he needs to.
Of course, money talks.
He needs to take over for Paul Chryst at Wisconsin and become the next Badgers head coach. But
of course, money talks. So I mean, if they offer him the Brinks truck, then it's hard to say no.
Yeah, I mean, the tricky thing is, if you think you can improve Nebraska, you're going to be like, okay, I've got job security. The problem that I think some coaches are going to have to reconcile with is they dumped Bo Pelini, who won 9 or 10 games every year he was there.
Yeah.
And so you need to get to 10 wins, which is not easy when you're rebuilding. And you need to do it pretty much within like 2 or 3 seasons.
Yep.
And maybe Lance Leopold, maybe Lance Leopold has that confidence, but he's also looking at a Kansas team that's vastly improved already. It's a tough trade-off.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that we're even talking about that says all that we need to say about it. So, Josh,
we're all any Nebraska fans are probably saying we're also super biased. We've got 2 Big Ten people on this show.
That's true.
So,
Josh, we talked about BYU a little bit earlier. They're at Oregon this week.
Tough one.
Not just tough one. Oregon is favored. Josh, should the Ducks actually be the favorite in this game? Because from what I've seen so far this season, BYU is a far superior team.
Well, BYU certainly had the harder slate. They traveled.
Oregon played Georgia in the state of Georgia. That's probably the toughest opponent anyone's had so far.
But then they bounced back with an FCS team.
True.
So, I mean, I would say they played one impossible game. I would say don't trust Bo Nix. Yeah. Well, I was just going to say Oregon's played one impossible game and one cupcake. BYU's at least had back-to-back, better than Eastern Washington teams. I would say you average out the opponents. I think BYU's had the tougher schedule of the two. Coach was kind of going where I was going. You got Bo Nix on one side, you got Jaron Hall on the other. I think Hall's the best player on the field, which helps. But man, going to Autzen, that is never an easy trip with that stadium. So I think it makes sense that the odds are favoring Oregon. They're the favored team right now. I think that makes sense. But in a little bit weaker slate, this is definitely an appointment game to watch. I think we're all going to be glued to this one.
Yeah, I would. I agree with that. I think it is another good game though on the West Coast between, I guess, Power 5 and a non-Power 5 team is Fresno State and USC. We all remember Fresno State beat UCLA at UCLA last year in what was a great early season win, especially after UCLA had been coming off of a big win against LSU. USC just dominated Stanford, looked really good over the weekend. But Josh, do you think Jake Haener can pull off another upset in Los Angeles?
Well, I don't think Fresno's going to be looked past, and Haener's a hell of a quarterback. So that kind of hurts Fresno. They're not sneaking up on anybody this year. I do think, though, that game plan-wise, there's some stuff Fresno can take advantage of. Lincoln Riley's talked kind of about the physicality of UCS defense not being there yet. And you sort of see it with kind of their scheme. They're trying to rely on turnovers more so than really slowing you down. And Stanford did manage to put up 28 points. I know it wasn't a very close game, but they did score 4 times. Rice even moved the ball a little bit against them. So if you're Fresno, you're like, okay, if that's their defensive game plan, we have one of the best quarterbacks in the country, we feel like, and Haener, definitely one of the absolute best quarterbacks from the group of 5 ranks. Haener's already got 737 yards on the season. Let him feast, and maybe you catch him. And I think that's what Fresno is going to hang their hat on.
Well, if you start fast and hang with them, I mean, that's what you're going to have to do with USC. You're going to have to put up a big number to beat them, because USC is going to put up a lot of yards. They're going to put up a lot of points. They're not really going to stop you too much.
The over/under is in the 70s, but by the way, Coach.
Yeah, I mean, I believe it. I don't know that I would touch that, but I do believe it. So, yeah. But this USC team's gonna be hard to beat. They're just so explosive.
They really are. Okay. Let's head to Miami and Texas A&M. If you had looked on the schedule, just at a glance at the beginning of the season before any games had been played, you'd probably think this would have been the biggest game of the weekend. Well, that was until Appalachian State happened. Coach, my question heading into this one is, what's more likely, in your opinion, that Texas A&M bounces back and plays up to potential, or that they continue to spiral and end up being beaten handily by Tyler Van Dyke and the U?
Well, first, let me go to my Jimbo Fisher play sheet.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know what that tells you, but yes, I think Miami. I think this is going to be another. I think A&M spiraling. That they're hustling backwards, and it's just not a good look. They can't stop the run. They can't get anything going on offense. They have an antiquated offense. I think it's time to hire a legit offensive coordinator from this century. They're going the old. Well, we did this in 2013 and won the national championship, and it worked at Florida State. It ain't happening with Haynes King. Let me just go ahead and tell you that it ain't. Max Johnson must be really bad if he can't beat out Haynes King, because Haynes King was awful. Now I got to clean up my mess.
It's shades of Jimbo's run at Florida State, like the end of it when they spiraled. One of the things that kind of caught my eye was like Miami started slow against Southern Miss and they only won by 23. So I was like, oh, like did Miami stink in this game? And it's one of the weird times where the box score just is not indicative of the final score. Miami totally dominated them. They had 200 yards more of offense. They were really efficient through the air. They held Southern Miss to 24 rushing yards, while on the flip side, Miami rushed for 174. I don't know why the score wasn't bigger than it was, but when you look at
it was 7-3 mustard buzzards.
I know.
For a while there.
I love how you're
I think that's the real reason, right? I mean, like, you see 7-3 on the scoreboard for like even for a minute, it's weird, but it was like that for a little while then, and that's what I think got to be concerned. But Tyler Van Dyke
Miami,
is the best player in this game, and for me,
and Miami's had 2 really solid performances so far to start the year. So I mean, just the simple eye test, Miami looks way bigger. Maybe there's some Kyle Field magic, I don't know, but I would, if I was an Aggie fan, I'd be really nervous.
Speaking of Kyle Field magic, though, I hope that you guys saw that the the Aggie yell that they do on Friday night with the if you haven't, go find it on Twitter or Reddit or whatever your social media choice of platform of choice is, because it's very cringeworthy from last week. The way that there was a guy basically doing a really bad stand-up set about Appalachian State. Yeah, whatever the midnight yell thing Midnight Yell. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I don't.
You know what traditions like that remind me of? High school stuff.
Well,
like when a high school destroys a car. Oh, we got the sledgehammers out. We're destroying the car. Oh, everyone get together. We're doing the midnight yell. We're breaking curfew. Oh, shh. That's stupid. Also, nice military uniforms.
Yeah.
Texas A&M.
Well, speaking of traditions,
they're dolled up more than West Point.
I mean, the West Point uniforms look way better than those hideous beige things that they wear. So, let's talk about a couple other schools with some questionable traditions. Penn State and Auburn. Coach, does Auburn have enough offense to keep up with Penn State?
Which team has the questionable tradition?
That's for you to decide.
Oh God, yeah, questionable. Yeah, I'd say so. What was the question?
Does Auburn have enough offense to keep up with Penn State, with Mitchell Tinsley and Nicholas Simpleton? And does it really matter? Because Brian Harsin is not going to be the coach.
He's done. I mean, I think they're getting into fake juice land here. They might even come out in orange jerseys. I don't know, but no. The answer is no. Not with TJ Finley. I mean, if they roll out Robbie Ashford, maybe. But not with TJ Finley. TJ Finley's clearly TJ Finley and Haynes King are kind of in that same boat of, yeah, we know
how are they the quarterback?
Guy. How?
That's
why? What's going on here?
That's what's going on, Josh.
I was going to say when Coach mentioned their orange, the Auburn social media post, it looked like Jordan Hare was on fire. And I'm like, what is this advertising?
That the house is burning down?
I guess so.
Burning
all right.
Down. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think they have enough offense. No. Yeah, I think Penn State's favored by only 3. So does Penn State really
don't
have
get me wrong.
Offense? It's going to be an ugly game.
Penn State's a flawed team going on the road to Auburn, but I still think that they are the better team. Speaking of flawed Big Ten teams on the road, Michigan State is at Washington. Quickly, Josh, we've run out of time here on the countdown, but don't look now. Michael Penix Jr. Looks like 2020 Michael Penix Jr. and the Jimmy Lakeless Huskies have a pulse. Can they upset Sparty at home?
For sure. I mean, Michael Penix Jr., 300 yards in back-to-back games. Michigan State looked really good against Akron, struggled at times with Western Michigan. The concern for Michigan State fans is they've had a lot of injuries already. The big one from week 1, Darius Snow, their linebacker, out for the season. Big Ten teams traveling west is a nasty history. On the flip side, Washington State broke the curse coming to Wisconsin. Maybe Michigan State breaks the curse going out to Seattle, but I think a lot of Michigan State fans, based on the injuries, are already kind of gritting their teeth and not feeling too optimistic about this one. Huge game for Washington, though. None of us were really too high on them. No. First year out of Jimmy Lake to start 3-0 would be a feather in their cap.
Absolutely. All right, Coach, any other games that you're excited about this weekend before we hit spread formations?
Well, Mississippi State is actually a favorite on the road against LSU.
Ooh.
Yes, they are. We're talking about that in spread formations. So,
yeah, and then Ole Miss Georgia Tech is one because I think Ole Miss is going to, like I said, Josh Brooks, UGA's AD, I think made Georgia Tech's football schedule. So, this is going to be a fun one for another feather in the cap for the Jeff Collins era, who should be closely behind Scott Frost. And if the rumors are true that they can hire Prime at Georgia Tech, which I don't think you will, but that would be nasty. That would not be ideal for Georgia fans.
No, it would not be. It would not be. Well, that whistle, gents, means before we get to spread formations, it's time for a pop quiz.
I'm not allowed to throw one little teeny tiny game out.
Okay, teacher special exemption.
I was just going to say the Friday night game, Florida State at Louisville. Florida
Josh, we're
State's,
talking about that in this. We're talking about that in the spread the formations.
Oh, it's the first game in spread formation.
Yes, it
I didn't
is.
see it. Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, you're killing me.
I left it off my notes. I left it off my show notes. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
My bad.
It's okay. You interrupt me.
I just wanted to.
Damn,
I wanted to
Josh.
delay the quiz.
Okay.
Detention.
So no,
you have 3 days of ISS.
Professor Perkins.
Enjoy.
No, you are not allowed to go to the bathroom right now. Josh, your beloved Iowa Hawkeyes. Do you know how many yards per game
amazing.
they are currently averaging on offense?
It's about 140.
158. If they
Okay.
were,
Oh.
Josh, if they were to keep up this pace, 158 yards per game, and somehow by some unbelievable magic spell and confluence of events, win every single game for the rest of the year, they would have
Not happening.
win the Big Ten, win the college football playoff, and they will have played 15 games. In 15 games at 158 yards per game, they will have accrued a total of 2,370 yards from scrimmage in 15 games. There are 9 players in the history of college football who have gained more than 2,370 yards in a single season, and they've all done it in 14 games or less. Your task is to name those 9 players. Josh, you get to go first, and we're off.
You gotta go with Christian McCaffrey, right? He had about $1 billion.
Christian McCaffrey.
I think he had 3,000 yards.
He had 2,664 from scrimmage, and that does not include his return yards.
I was going to say, I think McCaffrey had 3,000 yards in the Rose Bowl against Iowa alone.
Yeah, that too. Yes, 2,664 for Christian McCaffrey from scrimmage. Good choice, Coach.
I will say Melvin Gordon.
Melvin Gordon, 2014 season, the second most yards in history, 2,740. Josh.
You said how many years? Was there a year?
No, there is no year attached. It is in the history of college football.
Oh, well, then I'll go with the person that McCaffrey beat the record with, Barry Sanders.
That is correct. Barry Sanders had 2,734 yards from scrimmage in 1988.
LaDainian Tomlinson.
Ooh,
That is
I like that guess code.
It's incorrect. LaDainian Tomlinson's top season, he had 2,198 yards. So he was about a little less than 200 yards short of being entire season of Iowa, and he probably did that in 11 games.
I like that guess, Coach.
Very good guess.
I like it so much. I'm going to stay at LT's alma mater. Oh wait, no, he just played at San Diego Chargers. He played at TCU, but I'm going to go with Rashad Penny.
That is correct. Rashad Penny's 2017 season,
that one too.
2,383 yards. Coach.
Alrighty. I'm gonna go with Heisman winning Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry.
Ooh, I like
That
that.
is also incorrect. He was so close. 60 yards short in 2015. 2,310. Excellent guess, though.
If Tay Crowder wouldn't have decleated him, he would have.
Josh.
I'm going to go with a name that feels like he pops up all the time in these trivia questions. The outstanding Pitt running back, Tony Dorsett.
Sorry. Tony Dorsett doesn't even make the top 100 for single season yards from scrimmage. Yeah.
He was a 2,000-yard back though back in the day. I guess
He
they didn't pass it a whole lot. Back
I don't
in the
think
day.
he had a single catch that season, or if he did it for negative yards. Coach.
Okay. Oh wow.
Game's changed a little bit since Tony Dorsett played.
Yeah. Okay. Ricky Williams. Run,
I like
Ricky,
that.
run.
Yeah, Ricky, 1998, 2,386 yards. Well done, Coach. Josh.
Oh, that was my next up on my list. So I'm scrambling a little bit. Total
there are 4 left.
random.
There are 4 left.
Okay, this is a total random reach just because Coach took my next guess of Ricky. I'm going to go back to Stanford with Toby Gerhart. Come on.
Josh, not the worst. Not the worst one I've ever heard. He finished with 2,028 yards in 2009, which is good for 91st all time in a single season. All right, Coach.
Okay. All right. Let's see. God, it'd be hard not to say. It'd be hard not to guess a non-running back, but
I don't advise. I don't advise guessing a non-running back.
it's hard not to think of Tommy Frazier. I know that's not my guess, but let's see. Adrian Peterson.
Adrian Peterson is an excellent guess, but he is incorrect.
What about the Georgia Southern version of Adrian Peterson?
No, neither of them. Neither of them, Coach. That's your 3rd wrong answer. Josh, do you have any more for the win?
He fits in the Tony Dorsett category, where he's a 2,000-yard back, but I don't think they pass it to him enough. Ron Dane, any chance?
Sorry, Ron Dane's best season, 2,242 yards as a freshman. The guys you missed, number 1 all
Reggie
time.
Bush.
Number 1 all time, Kevin Smith at UCF, 2,809 yards in 2007.
I think we leave him off every time we do a trivia game. We always give Tony Dorsett and then always leave him off.
Josh, you were in the right era thinking Tony Dorsett. Marcus Allen, 2,683 yards in 1981. We also missed Grandmama.
He's the USC running back that didn't murder anybody.
Wasn't there one with the last name White who was pretty good too, who won a Heisman? Charles White. I don't think he murdered anyone either.
True.
No.
I don't think
neither did Reggae Bush.
The jury's still out on Lendale White. You guys also missed Larry Grandmama Johnson, Penn State, 2,436 yards in 2002. And probably the toughest one, but an all-time great, Matt Forte at Tulane, 2,409 yards in 2007. 2007 had both Kevin Smith and Matt Forte, 2 of the statistically greatest seasons of all time.
Bears legend, Matt Forte.
Absolutely. All right, gents, it's time to move on to our spread formations. For those of you who are new to the show, first of all, welcome. Second of all, spread formations are where we pick 5 games against the spread. Gents, we are on a bit of a heater to start the year. Last week, you guys were both 3-2. I was 4-1. On the season, you guys are both 9-7, and I am 11-5. I guess knock on wood or whatever fake wood knockoff my desk is made of. We're moving. We're moving right along. So time to move into spread formations. I'm picking first this week on each game. First game we're looking at is Florida State is a 2.5-point favorite on the road at Louisville, over under 54.5. And this is a weird game, guys, because Louisville somehow last week went in and beat UCF after getting destroyed by Syracuse in week 1. I don't know what to believe, but what I do believe is Florida State is at least competent. And they were able to go into win at LSU. I think Florida State should be able to win at Louisville because I can't believe I'm saying this either. They're better at the line of scrimmage.
Josh, for the first time ever.
Josh, what about you?
Don't let that Central Florida game fool you. This is what I was going to talk about. Gus Bus broke down. He had some horrible coaching decisions, awful time management in that win. Louisville's still coached by Scott Satterfield. Give me Florida State. I got Florida State winning by like 21.
Ooh, all right.
God.
Coach.
I'm so out on Louisville and Scott Satterfield.
Yeah, I am too. This is more of an I'm out on Scott Satterfield. I think Florida State is reemerging. I don't know that they're ready to win the ACC yet, but they are finally getting good at the line of scrimmage. I'll take Florida State -2.5, and I'll take the under just barely.
Ooh, and the under. Okay. Let's move on then. We previewed the game a little bit earlier, Penn State, Auburn. Let's get into the line for this one. Penn State is a 3-point favorite on the road at Jordan-Hare. The over-under is 48.5. I'm up first. I think Penn State wins this outright on the road, but I do think it could be kind of close. That being said, I don't love the defense for either of these teams, so give me over 48.5 in this one. What do you think, Josh?
Auburn tried their hardest to lose to San Jose State. That's all you need to know about this one. I got Penn State winning and covering that field goal spread. So Nittany Lions all day.
Unless Penn State goes on an offensive explosion, I think it's pretty safe to say. I think it's pretty safe to call the under. There's a reason why it's so low, but I'm gonna take Penn State to cover the 3 points. I think it's going to be like a 24-21, so they just barely hit the under. But I think it's going to be kind of low scoring.
All right. Well, I'm on the over on this one because I don't think either of these teams can defend. So, Coach, we are against each other on that one.
But they're sloppy. They're sloppy, though.
The next game I want to talk about is, I think, the battle for the Commonwealth. Old Dominion has already dispatched with Virginia Tech. They are in Charlottesville at Virginia this week. Virginia's a 10-point favorite, and they've looked a little shaky so far. I'm a little bit concerned with the year one of the Tony Elliott era, and Brennan Armstrong has really not been able to be let loose yet. ODU, on the other hand, playing some good football. I really want to take ODU in the upset, but I'm actually going to take the under. I think this is actually going to be a relatively low-scoring game. So give me the under 53.5 in Old Dominion at Virginia. Josh, what do you like here?
Well, I saw, for the purposes of blogging, a lot of that Virginia-Illinois game. Virginia has one of the worst offensive lines I've ever watched. That does not make me confident at all. I'm going to take ODU. I think they're going to lose, but I think they keep it close. So I will say Dominion covers, and that way if they pull off a crazy upset, I'm also in a good position.
Yeah, I think this game's going to be tighter than it should be. I'm definitely taking the under. Seeing a little bit of what Virginia did against Illinois was a little concerning as far as this goes. So I'm going to take ODU. Win or lose, I still think they cover, and I think they're going to hit the under. I agree with you on that, Matt.
All right. Let's next. We've got Mississippi State is a 1.5-point favorite at LSU. Coach mentioned this earlier. Over under 53. Oh, and I should mention, I forgot to mention earlier. So all of our lines brought courtesy of our presenting sponsor, BetOnline.ag.
That line has gone down.
The 1.5 over under 53. That was as of my notes this morning, Coach. Is that where is it at now?
It's gone. Well, it had gone down since Sunday, because Sunday the line started at -3 for Mississippi State. It is now since dwindled to 1.5.
Well, you know what? I still like Mississippi State -1.5 here on the road, and so I'm taking them. I think LSU is going to struggle to keep up with the pace of Mississippi State. So give me the Pirate and the Bulldogs on the road in Baton Rouge. What about you, Josh?
Yeah, I'm actually going to stay away from the spread. I don't have a good feel on who's going to win, but based on how both teams have been moving,
it's
the
pretty
ball
much a pick 'em,
here,
Josh.
Yeah. Well, I get to place my bet how I want, and I'm going with the over. Both teams are moving the ball really well. I think they can get over the mid-50s over-under right now.
right, Coach.
There were games that you guys just picked the over/under.
Yeah.
This one's pretty much a pick 'em though. So this one is who do you think's going to win the game basically because it's 1.5. So I mean I like Mississippi State here. I like Mississippi State in the over. They're rolling right now. LSU is still kind of struggling. They're still trying to find their way. Not to say that they won't be in this for a long time. I mean, you look at Brian Kelly, you look at Marcus Freeman. They're both kind of in the same boat. It's going to take them a minute to get established, but once they figure it out, they'll be okay. But not yet. Give me Mississippi State.
All right. And then finally, as is tradition here, we always try to determine who the worst Power 5 team is and see how ridiculous their lines are on a week-to-week basis. For a long time, it was Kansas. And I
let's
think,
give a salute to Kansas. They had a nice run.
So, here's to you. Here's to you, Kansas. You deserve... That was supposed to be... Good job, Kansas. You deserve a round of applause. But we have to move on. Rutgers playing competent football. Can't be my dear father's alma mater. Arizona actually looks like a team as well. So we can't have them. Duke just beat Northwestern. And they threw a shutout against Temple in week 1. I mean, Josh... I think we have a new contender for worst Power 5 team.
We do.
And
we do. Let me highlight their resume.
Yeah, please do.
Let's see. They have an administration that doesn't care about sports. So they went out and hired a guy who never really won anything at UCLA, and Carl Durrell, and gave him a huge contract, a multi-year contract. So now they're stuck under the massive buyout. So they ain't going to buy him out. They are an embarrassment each and every week. They got absolutely obliterated by the Air Force. So, Colorado, welcome to the show.
Josh, you could
dubious spot of
the dubious spot of worst team. You could say they got carpet bombed by the Air Force coach. What were you going to say?
I don't know if this changes your pick at all, but the line is back up to 2.5 now. I just checked it on Mississippi State LSU because I was looking at something else.
Oh,
I just happened to roll through it and check it. It's now sitting at 2.5. I like my pick though.
You know what? With that kind of late news, I need to be mobile, lightweight, and agile. I'm jumping to Josh with the over on this one. 2.5. I could see this being a 1-point game. Give me the over on that one, Coach. Thank you for that.
Welcome aboard.
That last minute update. But Colorado is now officially the worst Power 5 team in FBS football per the Illegal Motion College Football Podcast. That means they get the dubious honor of being last in spread formations every week. This week, they are on the road in Minneapolis against Minnesota. The Gophs, the Golden Gophs, who are somehow the only undefeated team in the Big Ten West, are 28-point favorites at home. And the over-under is a measly 47 points. And I can't believe I'm doing this, but I think Minnesota could win this game like 38-0. So that would be under, but I'm gonna take Minnesota minus 28
against New Mexico State.
Yeah, I'm taking Minnesota minus 28. What on earth am I thinking, Josh?
You're thinking not bold enough.
Oh.
The Gophers put up 38-0 on New Mexico State. They eased off the gas because New Mexico State was coached by their old coach, Jerry Kill. They didn't want to embarrass him. They could have dropped 50 plus in that game if they wanted to. Then they obliterate Western Illinois 62-10. Colorado in their 2 games have easily cleared this over. Both of them blowouts, 38-13 to TCU, 41-10 to Air Force. This game's going to be like 49-10 type thing. Minnesota is covering, and I'm going over because the Gophers are probably going to put up around 50 points alone.
Yeah, I'm with Josh here. I'm going bold. I'm taking Minnesota and the over. And just a quick update on that because I have it pulled up on Bet Online. It's actually now 27.5. And the over under has gone down a half point. So I'm even more in favor of Minnesota in the over.
So it's now Minnesota minus 27.5, over under 46.5.
Correct.
Oh, wow.
These things change rapidly, apparently.
I mean, in a couple hours, half a point. Yeah, that makes sense. So, all right. Well, that
got teased down.
Yeah. Well, not teased down. The Sharps bringing in the money to bring it down. Sharps, but that means the Sharps are putting money on Colorado, which scares me. Anyone who would decide to wager on Colorado, though, is a bit concerning in general. So, I think that is going to do it for us here today, unless I missed anything, Josh.
Well, we haven't found our bearing the lead team just yet.
No,
we're still trying to find out who we want.
No,
we have a great opportunity for a bearing the lead team.
Go on.
We've been loving UTSA.
They were the team last season.
Talk about a Joe Tessitore Texas is back special. Everyone loves Texas. They almost beat Alabama. What happens prime time on the tens of eyes that watch the Longhorn Network? Meep, meep. If UTSA wins that, I think they might have grabbed pole position for bearing the lead team.
All right. Well, I think that would be a prime contender 2 years in a row. I think the last time that someone had was our bearing the lead team 2 years in a row was the Purple Pirates.
Well, Arkansas held it for about 4 seasons.
That's true. I guess the entire Chad Morris era, plus probably the last year of the Brett Bielema era as well.
Yeah. Well, Mitch greatly appreciated that. We were the only podcast talking Arkansas football.
Well, it's what we're here for, to really fatten up those hogs, get a little woo pig suey going on while we're at it. So, but that is in fact going to do it for us here today on the Illegal Motion College Football Podcast. So, on behalf of our own offensive coordinator, the coach, Corey Burton, here in Nashville, Tennessee, and our intrepid blogger from Big Ten Accounting, Josh Cook, up there in Chicago, Illinois, this is the Professor Emeritus, Matt Perkins, in Nashville, saying so long, and see you next time on the Illegal Motion College Football Podcast.
SI, I'm Mr. September in the swimsuit issue.
Yes, you are. That Josh is Mr. July, and I'm Mr. November. I don't know if you guys know.
There you go.
No one wants to look at me that long. I'm Mr. February.
Only on, well, yeah, that makes sense.
SI, you understand the assignment, right?
Yep.
I hope so.